introduction that it's a first book by a journalist on bureaucracy, that why don't we get to hear a good thing about bureaucrats in India? Picture of bureaucracy is not going out in a correct way. So I had two choices when I decided to write the book. Should I include some bureaucratic tales which would make my book sell like a hotcake, or I should mention some sort of serious topic or the ailments of bureaucracy? Often, whenever we talk of ailments, there are only two elements which comes to most of the people's minds. Come to know the lack of professional approach is the real culprit behind this. Majority of them, believe me, it is very hard for a common man to find the person concerned who will help them in getting their work done and without greasing somebody's palm. We have currently is Indianization of digitization. I have categorized corruption in three categories, So why should that be happening? That happens in 2022. Come on. No, he will unnecessarily put an objection. We will have to go there. Why to waste time? Let's get away with it. Because he is in a government job, because he has got an opportunity to get involved in it. We have Central Vigilance Commission. That is there to check corruption in government departments. There is infringement. There is transgression. At times it is willingly. At times it is out of pressure, posting A person to B to A in public interest. Government of India has an online website that is called CP Grams. I would say that it is not up to the mark, and the Aadhaar, which is the UID is separate entity altogether, but to some extent METI also, Ministry of Information and Technology and Electronics. My question is that why can't that initiative that was awarded by none other than Prime Minister of India was replicated in other places? My question is that, so why don't we learn from each other? What stops them, God knows.
Hello and a very warm welcome to Bharata First. I'm Pereira. Well, the enigma called Indian bureaucracy. What is its real purpose? Does it do its job of serving the people? Why is the word power associated with it? Why does it have an element of entitlement attached to it as well? And more importantly, is it working in its present form? All important and pertinent questions. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to try and address all of these questions as well. And to do that, I have with me on the program a special guest, Ashwini Shrivastava. He is the Assistant Editor of the Press Trust of India, and he is also the author of Decoding Indian Babudom. It is a first of its kind book on Indian bureaucracy. It talks about ailments of the country's bureaucratic system from the common man's point of view and has suggestions on ways to improve it. Now, let me introduce Ashwini first and foremost and welcome him to Bharata First. Welcome, Ashwini, and it's a pleasure to have you here on Bharata First.
Thank you so much, Frank. I'm really happy to be here.
So, let's dive right into the discussion and talk about why you felt the need to write this book, because I understand that there are many journalists who cover this beat who have been talking about it in the form of their articles on television channels and elsewhere, but there is no such book. So what made you decide to write this book in the first place?
Frank, you see, as you rightly mentioned in introduction, that it's a first book by a journalist on bureaucracy. When you say a first book by a journalist, that means somebody who covers bureaucracy right on governance matter and comes out with a book. So I have that rare privilege, and I take pride in that, and that I have tried and attempt to write on a subject like this, which is often considered as bored subject, dull. I mean, whenever we talk of bureaucracy, it is often corruption, red tape, some problem, but we never seem to be praising them. So the thought came actually when I was in Bonn, Germany, to participate in a group discussion. I had gone there to attend a media forum that is organized by Deutsche Welle Group. That's a very big media group based in Germany. So it was in Bonn in 2018. And while when I was in a program, so one of the panelists, there was a program organized on this subject. So one of the panelists in private asked me that why don't we get to hear a good thing about bureaucrats in India? I said, why? Come on, you're German. What you got to do with bureaucracy in India? I was fairly surprised. The question asked by that person, that person was German. So I didn't expect him to ask this question. So I tried to convince him what good work was being done, but at the same time, I got a feeling that yes, somehow the picture of bureaucracy is not going out in a correct way. So I thought that why not to pen a book? That was the first idea. But here I have mentioned in this my book also what happens that one of the union ministers, as a goodwill gestures, he gives lunch to fellow journalists once in a year on every new year. So it was perhaps next year, I mean 2019, I was in that lunch and one of a very senior bureaucrats, he is still serving at a very good position in the government of India, secretary level, like I may not like to tell his name. He, while having lunch, he came out with an idea that Ashwini, you have been covering bureaucracy for long. Why don't you write about it? I said, okay, let me think. And this is how it is started. So and I started perceiving as to what people would like to know. As a journalist, you see, Frank, you have been a journalist, you have a very renowned journalist, you still are, I would consider you as a journalist. You would understand, and whenever there is a story, we always look out for some news angle, so that it sells. So I had two choices when I decided to write the book. Should I include some bureaucratic tales which would make my book sell like a hotcake, or I should mention some sort of serious topic or the ailments of bureaucracy? I decided to do the later part. I thought that let me highlight the suffering of the people. I mean, through governance, what kind of challenges do they face? So this is how I started writing about it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that bit of information with us as well. Now let's talk about this. This is a very important aspect that you raised as well, and you've written it in the book too, about the ailments really, and what are the kinds of problems that the people at the grassroots levels really face with the system itself. So what is it that that people suffer the most?
Often, whenever we talk of elements, there are only two elements which comes to most of the people's minds. They are corruption and red tape. They don't go beyond it. You ask anyone on the street, they would come out with this, that our bureaucracy is corrupt, or there is a persistent red tape. I don't agree with them fully. But I feel, when you realize it further, you will come to know the lack of professional approach is the real culprit behind this, which gives birth to these two problems. I find it most, I will not say all people are corrupt, all people are inefficient. Otherwise, our country would be in a real bad shape. It is just that a significant number of people are not doing the kind of work that they are expected to do. So that's a big disclaimer. Anyway, so I feel that there is a lack of professional approach from many people, many in system. I mean, there is no empathy, there is no feeling towards their fellow countrymen. That is what gives birth to the problem of corruption and red tape. So coming to your main question, I would say, suffering is that there is no ease of accessing governance. People can't access governance so easily. I give you an instance. Let's say, we may have to go to municipal corporation for different kinds of work, getting a birth certificate or maybe death certificate. There may be some municipal corporations which may be digitized, they may be doing good work, but majority of them, believe me, it is very hard for a common man to find the person concerned who will help them in getting their work done and without greasing somebody's palm. Now, I'm not talking about the amount here, but then it won't be free of cost. So that's a big trauma here. Anyway, and the most notorious thing, RTOs, property registration office, I can say it for sure, you will not find a single person who would say that I got my house or my shop or any commercial or residential establishment registered by paying what is actually needed by the government. That never happens. My question, why? There is a systematic corruption that exists. So that is what hurts the common man the most. Secondly, you go to RTO for getting license or anything related to your vehicle. There are some RTOs, I won't say all, again, maybe in Karnataka, in Delhi, you can get majority of work done related to RTOs online. But what about hundreds of others which are working in smaller cities? You try and get your driving license done. It's such a Herculean task to, again, you will not be able to find the necessary, the person concerned who will be helping you. But on the contrary, you will find hundred of touts sitting right outside that very RTO who will help you in getting that very license. Why should that be happening? Come on, we are in 2022. We are giving best minds to companies in the US and other developing nations to help them develop. Why can't we have an automated system? So I feel that these are the, I would say, the lack of professional approach, which is coupled with corruption, red tape, and lack of digitization, is what adds to people suffering.
Would you say at some level, you brought up the issue of property registration as well as RTOs at some level, and you brought up the examples of Delhi and Karnataka as well, especially Bangalore and Delhi. And even I've seen that, there's a lot of digitization both in the cities of Delhi and in Bangalore, and there is not much scope for corruption as a result of that digitization. So is it safe to say that probably digitization could be the answer because we have examples in front of us, or do you see challenges there as well? Because it's going to be difficult for a population or a populist like India to get onto the digital bandwagon.
That's right, but I do not fully agree with his suggestion. I tell you why. You see, I am 100% in support of digitization. But when I say digitization, that means complete digitization. What we have currently is Indianization of digitization. Now I will try and explain what do I mean by with this term. You see, there are some offices where they are mandated to work using a computer. Okay, so they are supposed to feed data. Okay, that approach has not been automated. So whenever there is a human intervention, there is a scope for vested interest, and that can be used either way, either to spoil the system, pave way for corruption, or to delay a well process. So I would say digitization is a very good space, and there may be areas where internet has not reached. Forget about internet. There are some places where electricity has not reached. There may be places, let's be very fair. I mean, whosoever claims what, we will not get into it. But then there are places. But again, there are large number of people who can have access to technology, who can have access to computer, and who knows how to file or process any work. So I feel digitization is a good way. We must have digitization, but it has to be automated. I'll give you an example. I don't know whether you have applied for PAN card recently. Earlier, when we used to apply, we had to fill a form and submit it some sort of, either at income tax office or through some service center where it would be processed manually. But now just open a website and you can apply for PAN card there. Same is with Aadhaar. You can get your a host of activities through online only. So that these are making our life easier. And as I mentioned, Delhi, Karnataka, I would also add Chhattisgarh also. They are also doing wonderful job in digitizing their RTOs. Not each and every RTO has been digitized, but large number of RTOs are getting digitized, and some of the services are being provided online. Take an example of passport. I am all praised for that service. Come on, most of the things can be done online. You go there, it saves time, you come out so quickly, everything is so fast. So digitize is the solution, but not Indianization of digitization. Don't Indianize it, just keep it completely automated. And I'm sure government is making effort. There are a lot of government of India's programs to enhance connectivity in remotest areas of the country, and they would help us.
Talking about what governments have done, corruption has been a big problem in our country, and everybody who's attached with any system realizes and understands that each one of us actually has gone through this process of bribing somebody or getting something done, as you mentioned, greasing someone's palm, because otherwise your work just won't get done. It's as simple as that. So what is one government fell as a result of such a big anti-corruption movement, and the others big movement is about putting an end to corruption. So is there an end to this word called corruption? Can we get rid of it? What needs to be done?
Frank, corruption, I would say, in my book, I have defined that there is a chapter which is titled as, Ye Dil Mange More. Corruption, is it accepted, norm, or greed or need? I have categorized corruption in 3 categories, whether it is accepted norm, greed, or need. For greed, there has to be a strong punishment, prompt punishment. That there are different agencies that they are supposed to act against those, those whosoever is found to be involved in this, but there is a need-based corruption that we need to check. I'll explore in a nutshell. I will tell need-based and accepted norm. First, let me talk about this accepted norm of corruption. For passport, I would give you an example. Like, there is one of the requirements for getting a passport done, that is of police verification. Now, you ask anyone on the street, just a sample survey would tell that has any one of them got their passport done without some, greasing someone's palm? If not 100% answer, I mean, I am sure there would be 2 or 3 people who would say, no, we got it done through routine, we didn't pay, but majority of people would have paid something. That's the truth that we need to accept. So people are paying.
And there's a fixed amount as well, depending on which police station and in which state.
Exactly.
So it varies from 500 to 2,500.
So why should that be happening? That happens in 2022. Come on, after 75 years of our independence, that is happening now. So that I call accepted form of corruption that the society has accepted. And we are journalists, we have resistance in us. We can say, no, I'm not going to pay you, or we can just make a one phone call and everything will be done in a jiffy. But think about people. Why don't they resist? They think, no, he will unnecessarily put an objection. We will have to go there. Why to waste time? Let's get away with it. Give us some money. So that is accepted form of corruption. That is not the end. See what happens. When a postman comes to deliver your the passport, there are cases mainly in smaller towns. He would expect, Sirji, your passport has come. You got to give something. If you don't give, God knows what happens to you. Now, why should this accepted norm of corruption exist in a society? These I say accepted norm because people don't resist it. We are supposed to resist it. You approach seniors, go and tell that this is being asked for, but then there may be justified or unjustified reason why people don't go about it. So this is accepted norm. There is a need-based corruption also. That also we need to check. How need-based? There are many people who make to civil services examination, they crack that, and some of them come from humble background. Now, just think of them. You may reject this assertion of mine, but think of them, somebody coming from a very humble background. All of a sudden, he's asked to sit in a palatial palace, or the office, which is superbly huge, and given all kind of facilities from the government. Then he has to maintain some sort of rapport. There may be fellow officers who would have come from a better background than him. So there are certain circumstances, or maybe some family problem. There are certain circumstances that forces an individual to fulfill his need, which may not be, getting fulfilled through his salary. So I feel here is a need-based corruption. I have explained all this in detail, but if I tell, all people would watch your show and they would not going to read my book.
Absolutely. It should be a trailer. It should be a trailer.
So
yes.
It is a trailer. So that is need. Now the greed-based, the dangerous form is the greed-based. You are already posted, you are getting a salary, but then also you are demanding illegal gratification. That has to be checked. Now, how do we check it? I feel, this corruption is not something which bestows upon a government employee all of a sudden as and when they join government service. I feel it exists. It is a gene which is in the person's DNA, as an individual. So I feel if somebody is involving in a corruption, that does not mean he's doing it because he's in a government job, because he has got an opportunity to get involved in it. So whenever somebody gets an opportunity, 100 of 95% would fall for it. There would be 5 of high caliber or high moral ground who may not. I wish 100 don't fall, but that doesn't exist in real world. So they would fall for it. So corruption, yes, it exists. Now, how do we check it? You see that we have a Prevention of Corruption Act 1988, so long. Now we have been modifying it. We have now included, giving bribe as a crime in it. So we already have a law. We have Central Vigilance Commission that is there to check corruption in government departments. We have different host of other agencies which are there to check corruption in states or state-owned departments. Then you have Lokpal recently. So these host of agencies have been there, but despite that, corruption exists. So my simple solution that I've said if I am the head of the department and if I decided nothing doing, my department will not be tainted by this germ of corruption, I can do that. So in a nutshell, I would say it is a lack of will which is lacking from those in power from checking this. Once it comes out that no matter whatever happens, there should not be a single instance of corruption, it will be checked.
So it has to be a top-down approach so that it percolates right from the top and then it goes down and then it ensures the entire system itself is cleansed. Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely. Let us talk about another aspect now. When we look at the public delivery system, there is always this case of, at some level, some politicians getting involved as well, and then, ruining the entire process and disturbing the work of the bureaucrats or the Indian bureaucracy as such. How big a challenge or a problem is that?
See, in a country like us, it's very difficult to to ensure that politicians and bureaucrats, they work within their defined parameters. There is infringement, there is transgression. At times it is willingly, at times it is out of pressure, but they do cross each other's path or territory, which it should not be happening. Before I elaborate further, I would tell you one common thing which happens. There is the sinister game of transfer and posting which happens in most of the state governments. What happens there? Whenever there is a change of power or at a regular interval, there would be a select people of employees, select group of employees in a very good department. It happens in a department where a lot of money flow is there. There is a lot of, I would say, public dealing is involved. So there they would indulge in transfer and posting, and all it is done in the name of public interest. There is a common parlance, this word is commonly used whenever they transfer somebody, that we are transferring or posting A person to B, B to A in public interest, but that is not a public interest. They transfer it so that the person try to get it cancelled, and of course he would like to get it done using or giving or offering something. So I would say there are, these some of the politicians and bureaucrats are allegedly in hand in gloves. Why I would say allegedly? There is no definite proof, but then again, circumstantial evidence suggests that yes, they are doing what they should not be doing. So I would say that all the wings of the government, be politics, those ministers and these bureaucrats, they should work in their own path. They should collaborate, they should talk what they are required to talk, but again, they should not try to form some sort of cohort for their own vested interest. The larger good, the common aim should be the betterment of the system or the welfare of the masses. For that, they should collaborate, and for anything else, they better mind their own work.
Absolutely. Since you brought this up, and that is the whole idea of the bureaucracy, it's called civil services for a reason. It's about giving the masses what they need and what they require at the end of the day, because they come to you only in the time of need and when they are in a bad position. So what is the kind of grievance redressal mechanisms that we have in place? Do they need some kind of improvement? Is it there at all?
It is, you have asked a very pertinent question, and I must thank you for that question, Frank. I would say, Government of India has an online website that is called CP Grams. So what CP Grams let an individual do is that, you can log on to that website and raise a grievance related to any central government organization. And same thing has been done by many of the state governments. They have their own portals where you can raise grievances. Now, again, the problem is Indianization of digitization. Here also it exists. I tell you how. I have been filing grievances. Whenever I have a problem, I don't call a bureaucrat. By the virtue of being a journalist, I happen to know some of the bureaucrats. If I call them, my work would get done instantly. But rather than approaching a bureaucrat, I always raise a grievance. Now, what happens when you raise a grievance? That system is not completely digitized, and what happens, let's say I raised a grievance. It's very recent, last month, I raised a grievance that I have not received my duplicate voter ID card. Now it pertains to, I live in a state called Uttar Pradesh. I mean, neighborhood, you must be knowing Noida only. So I raised a grievance to this portal. Now what happens? They forward it to the state government. And on their portal, they show that a grievance has been disposed. Come on, you have just forwarded it. How can it be disposed? So data, they show that one grievance raised and that is disposed. That means 100% disposal rate. Just think of that. But have I got my grievance redress? No, redressal has not happened. So now it goes to state government. How do I track what is happening to them? It lies there for years, for months. You never know. It is the second time I have raised the same grievance, and I am also persistent. I am going to pursue it. So system exists, but it is a lack of will, I would say, to get something done. I feel we must have a system which should not let any citizen raise a grievance for anything. I mean, if they are legitimate, some sort of problem is happening, that it is okay. But otherwise, they should, I mean, work should be done smoothly. So this platform, this CPgrams, it lets you file a grievance, but I would say that it is not up to the mark. And my words are influenced by a recent report of Parliamentary Standing Committee, which said that you should not only be concerned about your numbers, about disposal, but ensure that the disposal is appropriate. The one thing that I mentioned, that whether my grievance is really getting it is redressed or not. It is not for your some sort of data that okay, 100% grievance done. So I would say that state should have more and more these websites, and it should be fully automated, and people should have an opportunity to track their grievance, its disposal, and there has to be a definite timeline. When I said definite, means definite. 30 days means 30 days. That's it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll look at solutions now, and in the course of our conversation, passport offices and the whole passport process came up at least on a couple of occasions. And I remember, because I've gone through the process of getting a passport through the TCS system as well, and through standing in the lines from morning to evening and trying to get that passport done too. And I've more recently also got my passport renewed for a second time too. And I went through the Tatkal system this time around, and I'm telling you that within 24 hours, the passport was in my hand. See? That was how good the system worked. And appointments kept to, all issues and problems addressed, discussed, everything mentioned beforehand, what you have to carry, what you don't have to carry. So the process was very streamlined. From the first time I got my passport to now, I must say it's been a transformational change. Can that be done in other departments, in other places as well? Can that be used as an example?
You have been raising very pertinent question, and somehow I get a feeling that you have read my book completely. I would say I have talked about it in one of the chapters, that the serious problem in government department is that they don't learn from each other. And I've cited an example, and that's the same example I'll cite here. You see, for PAN card and Aadhaar, if you need a duplicate PAN or a copy of PAN card even, or Aadhaar, all you have to do is that you have to log on to their respective sites, pay the required fee, and it would come at the address registered with them instantly. The same doesn't happen in case of a voter ID card. I mean, your electoral voter ID card. So when you need an electoral voter ID card, it's a mystery. Where do you go? How do you raise a complaint? There is no way you can track it. So that is the one thing that they need to learn from each other. When two departments, that income tax department, which is doing a span thing, and the Aadhaar, which is the UIDI as separate entity altogether, but to some extent, METI also, Ministry of Information Technology and Electronics. So they are doing these separate things wonderfully. Why can't Election Commission of India have the same procedure that, let's say your voter ID card is ready, you log on to your system, pay fee, whatever address is registered with us, a card will come to you. It would make our life and their life much more easier. The fact is that people don't learn from each other. And to buttress or to support my claim, I would say we talked about property registration office, the kind of corruption that takes place there. You would be surprised to know, Frank, state of Bihar, of all things, computerize its registration process. That too, not now, 12 years back. They computerized it then. And the officers who were involved in computerization or digitization of this registration process, they got an award from Prime Minister of India also. Now that was 12 years back. My question is that why can't that initiative that was awarded by none other than Prime Minister of India was replicated in other places? And why is it not functioning in Bihar now? The very state that came out with it, they broke to a 200-old practice. It is 200-year-old practice, roughly they claim. So they came out with e-registration of properties. They implemented it and they got an award for it. Now they are the same very state can't have the same initiative that they got awarded for. So I am telling that there is a need. If there is a good initiative, why not other states learn from it? Or why don't they continue with it? Similarly, in Delhi also, there you might be hearing a praise about a Delhi education system, in the present dispensation. I tell you, 11 years back, a similar initiative was awarded in Delhi by the Prime Minister. That there is a scheme in Government of India that is Prime Minister's Awards of Excellence. It is usually given to bureaucrats. It happens every year on Civil Services Day, that is April 21st. So that was 11 years back. Same thing which happened in Delhi. People easily forgot. And all of a sudden, when a change of government happens, they try to modernize the same system, but not the one which got awarded. And then they get the praise. So why can't that same system which was awarded in case of education that can continue? My question is that, so why don't we learn from each other? What stops them, God knows.
Absolutely. Very important and pertinent points. Duplication of work must be stopped. We need to have a better system in place and learn from each other. If something is working, just keep getting more of that so that it just percolates down everywhere else and the system itself improves on the whole. Ashwini, wonderful having you on the program. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing insights into your book. Decoding Indian Babudom is out. Anyone who wants more such insights about what's happening really as far as Indian bureaucracy is concerned, please go out and buy the book and read more insights into it, get solutions to some of the problems as well. It's a wonderful book written by Ashwini, who's here with us. Thank you so much, Ashwini. Pleasure having you on the program and lovely having this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Frank. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak on this very important subject, which is often ignored by many people. And I hope most people watch this recording of ours, this talk, and it is a food for thought. I have been a bit restrictive in my response because I still want people to read my book rather than me speaking out each and everything. Otherwise, there would not be anything new for them to read in it. But yes, if your viewers demand, we can do another program sometime soon. I'll be happy to come here again and speak to you. I must say it was really wonderful talking to you and you raised some very pertinent questions. I enjoyed doing it.
Thank you so very much and the pleasure is all mine. Namaste. Well, before I go, let me once again remind you to like the video and subscribe and share the content as well. Do subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive information. We have received a silver button and are elated about it. We would like to share our joy with you and are providing massive discounts at the Bharata First Knowledge Center. All packages that we have are available at just 5,000 rupees. So each of our 26 courses will be available at less than 200 rupees per course. This offer is available only for the first 25 learners to register. So hurry up, go to kc.bharatafirst.com and register right now. You can also download the Bharata First app for several free-to-use activities. All this information along with some must-see recommendations are in the description of the video. Please go through it. That's it from me. See you again next time.